Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo. If you're in the market for a vehicle, I know it's almost Christmas time and you've got all kinds of presents to buy, but buy yourself one as well. We've got all sorts of F-150s on the ground, Mach-E, Edge, Escape, 23s, 24s, lots of blowout deals, great low interest rates. Where can you find those these days? Get at me at Norm at Oak Ridge Ford. I'm going to keep hammering it until we get a little bit more action on the car end of things, because you know what? That does support the podcast. Mr. Augello, good evening, my friend. You know, we were lauding the Leafs and their scoring barrage over the last, 5-6 games, and they looked okay with the Rangers through 2 periods of play last night at Scotiabank Arena. And then they did the thing that they typically do when it's a little bit of a tit for tat, that they give up 3 unanswered and they lose the game 5-2. Their 9-game point streak ends in the process, but it's on to Buffalo tomorrow night, and you're going to be there in the flesh. How are you?
Good evening, Norm. Well, starting with the game last night, I mean, they had earned a point in a victory or a shootout or overtime loss in every game since November the 25th. So it was bound to end at some point.
Right.
But you knew, and as I wrote today on Hockey Buzz, you knew that a team that is a higher echelon team like the Rangers, a team that is probably one of 2 or 3 teams in the East that's going to represent the conference in the Stanley Cup final. When you kick the crap out of them in their own building 7-3 week before, when your team was, raging with sick, as apparently they were, and they made Igor Shesterkin look like Jonathan Bernier, and their defense core looked like 6 Aki Bergs. That's what that team is going to turn around. And Shesterkin was great, and they scored 2 power play goals, and they got the bounces. I mean, honestly, other than the game winner from Braden Schneider, the empty netter, I mean, you don't count. 3 of the 4 goals that Martin Jones let in were the oddest of odd goals, bouncing off, deflecting off skates, bouncing off Morgan Riley's leg, bouncing off 2 different players. I mean, just stuff like that. So,
Mike, I don't want to interrupt you. The OGs and converts hate it, but I think they're all in the same mindset as I am right now. This doesn't sound like you at all. I'm not saying you're making excuses, but you're almost content with how things went last night, coming off the 9-game point streak and things just not going their way. Where's Mike Augello? This isn't the guy we usually hear from after these kinds of losses.
Well, I mean, when you expect it, you expect the Rangers to be the team that they were last night, the team that we saw the week before, and the result of that game were not consistent. So I expected the Rangers to show up. Did the Leafs play badly last night? Even Sheldon Keefe said, we didn't play badly. Martin Jones was good. But then when you let 1 odd goal like that in, that's just hockey. When it's 2, it's just your night. And there were 3. So it's you're not content, but you can understand that a good team is going to put up that kind of effort. Now, we'll talk about what's going to happen tomorrow night on Thursday in Buffalo, because, we'll hold off on that until we.
Right. What is really interesting is that your 1C is playing as much as he has, Martin Jones. You think this would just be Ilya Samsonov's thing with a guy just watching to make sure he doesn't get injured?
Well, and obviously Sheldon Keefe won't say this, and maybe I'm off base, but based on the way Ilya Samsonov has played recently, there's not a lot of trust level there. I mean, there is a reason why.
That's bad. That's rough.
Yeah, there's a reason why Joseph Woll played 5 games in a row, because he was the better of the 2 goalies, and because he won games for them when maybe they didn't deserve to win. The game against Florida and other games, Woll was a difference maker. Samsonov, I think he's made 12 starts. I think in 1/3 of them he's been good. The rest of them he's been flawed. And now, Sheldon Keefe is not going to come out and say, well, Ilya Samsonov is suffering from a crisis of confidence. he's not playing well.
Mm.
And while Martin Jones earns a shutout and gets a win at MSG, they're going to play him. Now, I don't know whether they're going to play him tomorrow night in Buffalo. I mean, they may see this opportunity to put Ilya Samsonov in there. They're going to need him to be good tomorrow night.
Bird watching life, even the late 70s Habs laid the occasional egg. BWL, are you equating that juggernaut with this group?
Nope.
Come on. I think I get what he's talking about. Hey, our buddy putting the con in Leafs Convo. The hockey gods took over last night.
Yeah.
Arish, complete OG. Yo. What's up with the OGs? It's remarkable what's going on with Ilya Samsonov, because as a human being, I root for the guy. I mean, he's going into a contract year. Who's going to want to pay this cat any money if he's playing this way? And he'll probably tell you the Leafs aren't giving him enough leash to kind of get going. But as much as they would like to elevate one of their players so he can help them and then in turn help himself, they've got the bigger picture in mind, and that is keeping pucks out of their bloody net to try to withstand what's going on right now before the team can get on some kind of run. It's really not just about him, but it is kind of about him.
Well, I mean, the Leafs have gone through a similar stretch this season as they did last season, where, and I think it was November, when Riley went down and Muzzin got hurt and Brody was injured, and you had Justin Hall and Giordano as the top pairing, and Victor Mete and Philip Kral and Mac Hollowell and all these Marlies defensemen.
Right.
And that was the stretch that they were the best last year, because the forwards came back and were helping out the defense, and they were getting great goaltending out of Samsonov and Matt Murray. And I remember that one game in Dallas when Murray stood on his head. That's sort of what happened this year. Wall was playing that kind of great hockey with, William Lagesson and Simon Benoit on the blue line. And, I'm sorry, William Lagesson's not a good defenseman. If he doesn't make any fatal errors, then that's a good thing. Simon Benoit is maybe a good 7. He provides some size. But this team is not going to win with those guys playing big minutes. They got Liljegren back last Saturday. Giordano's probably a week or two away. They'll need him to come back. But even when they're completely healthy, their defense is probably average. They need Austin Matthews to score at a Rocket Richard trophy winning pace. Right. And that's what he's doing right now. And that's why they're winning games and earning points in games when maybe they don't deserve to earn points, like that 5-0 debacle against Columbus, where they came back. So they're earning points and they're staying high in standings. But does that mean that the Leaf fans should be content? Right. No, never.
Hey, LJ, Samsonov will be on LTIR eventually. Mental break at Robidaw Island in the Cards. T-Sack. He can't handle the pressure. And T-Sack adding, Justin Hall was the key to Sammy's success.
Yeah, okay.
All that standing around and hugging dudes turned out to be quite effective in hindsight. Ilya Samsonov needs a competent group of defensemen who are really keen on mitigating offensive chances and being known for it, to help him find his way. The issue as well is when you have a group of guys who are kind of just there, and you have a guy in Joseph Wall who is kind of coming on and finding his way and going on these runs, but he can only do so much. He can only stop so much rubber. Mm-hmm. So again, they're going to score a ton. We're going to be rooting for goaltenders between the pipes, all three of them for different reasons. And then it's the guys in between who really this season depends on. And that's just T-Sack used the word pressure. That's just way too much damn pressure on a bunch of guys who, it's not like they're not ready for prime time. They were never meant for it, Mike.
Well, I when I look at Wall and when he got hurt against Ottawa, having to make like the 6th of a half dozen 10 bell saves. And, you can't have a goaltender having to do that. He's going to get hurt. I mean, even the great ones are going to get hurt. like that. You need to play responsible defensively in front of them. And, I think this team has played a little bit better defensively once Wall went down, because they knew they would have to in front of Martin Jones, who, even though he had a bunch of wins in Seattle last year, he's not a great goaltender. I mean, I've found no fault in what he's done so far with the Leafs, but give me a minute. But Samsonov right now, I mean, they need Samsonov to regain some bit of what he did.
How does he do that?
I don't know. I'm sure Curtis Sanford, the goaltending coach, is working with him. I mean, maybe the whole point of Jones playing recently is hoping that they can get Samsonov's head on straight. But at some point, because more than likely Wall is not going to be back until close to or after the All-Star break, they need to piece together an effort with Samsonov and Jones to get to that point and be in a playoff spot. Mm-hmm. And there's no guarantee that Wall is going to be able to stay healthy past that point. So they really need to get Samsonov on the straight and narrow. And right now, I haven't seen much proof that will be able to. But we hope, as observers and fans, we hope that that's the case.
OG's Converse, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Mike in Buffalo, Norm in London. You can check out Mike's latest work at hockeybuzz.com. He also writes for the Buffalo Sabres. He's going to be at that game tomorrow, one of the precious few games he can attend that has the Toronto Maple Leafs involved in it. So we're going to be looking forward to that coverage. And you know how you can get a hold of me at Norman Oakridge Ford on Instagram. Brad Tyndall, Anointed OG, is here. Let's go. What did I miss? Inmates running the asylum. Culture is rotten. Thanks, Dubas. Even if Brad wasn't at that game last weekend, he was channeled through the 19,000 people at Scotiabank Arena chanting Dubas. Dubas. Brad, good to see you, buddy. Mike.
Yeah, frankly, I thought that the chanting at Scotiabank Arena was a little bit embarrassing. I understand, the fan mentality when you're beating up on the team that is managed by the former Leaf general manager, and they're beating him so soundly without Austin Matthews, without TJ Brody. That lends itself to a little bit of mockery. It's not like Kyle Dubas wanted to leave Toronto. Yeah. We're not going to re-legislate that whole situation. So I don't consider him a villain in Leafland. I mean, some of the players that were key to that victory, like Matthew Nyes, were brought in, but were drafted by Kyle Dubas.
Right.
So, I sort of shook my head at that, but whatever. Fans are going to do what fans are going to do. I get that. And T-Sack can say, that he earned every boo. He did not want to leave.
Right.
He wanted more power. It was a power struggle. So whatever.
We can analyze what's not going right, lament. It's at times the repetitiveness of the things that don't go right, and will be criticized for it due to the fact the Leafs are 16-7-6, and they're among the top 10, kind of hanging around in the division. Kind of this, kind of that isn't going to cut it in the end, and we can foresee the same kind of results that we have experienced year in and year out due to the fact that you have an all-world group of offensive players, a middling group of defensemen who really have no one to inspire them, and three goaltenders who, one might be injured, one might have some psychological battles to endure, and another's just there wanting to continue his NHL career. That doesn't championship recipe a make, or whatever the hell, you know what I'm talking about. Like last night, I'm looking at the score sheet. So Max Domi, no points. He was a hero a couple nights ago. Mitch Marner, he's got a lot of goose eggs this year. And again, I'm not saying he has to put up another 100-point season. It would be nice, but he can not be there. Matthew Nyes, another guy, not there. Austin Matthews scored 2. William Nylander picked up his assists. But when you can't get scoring from an abundance of players, and you fall apart in the third and your goaltending's iffy, you're going to be in trouble. Remember, this team's offense gets it to where it needs to go. The rest, you cross your fingers and hope they're having an on night. Just a couple more points, Mike, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, when you're facing a Vezina Trophy winner like Shesterkin, and he made a couple really great saves yesterday. I mean, Matthews is one of the preeminent scorers in the league. It's difficult for that team to.
He had 5 shots, Mike. 2 goals, 5 shots. Marner had 1 shot. Nyes 2. Domi didn't have any shots. Yeah. I'm not expecting Domi to put up 90 points, but again, you get your big night. Everybody thinks you're a hero. You got to keep it going, especially when you know that the other shoe is going to drop for this team. And by that, I mean, there's going to be defensive lapses coming. They're known for it. They're going to continue to transpire. It's how you overcome that with offense and just that will to win, right?
Yeah, but there's a difference between playing between Nylander and Nyes and playing between Nick Robertson and Kalle Järnkrok. So, not to give Max Domi an excuse, but there were a lot of change arounds in the lineup. So, but I mean, okay, granted, I think there were instances during this point streak where they didn't deserve to earn a point. And that Columbus game is the one that is completely glaring, being down 5-0 to one of the worst teams in the league. And then coming back and wiping away a 5-goal lead to get a point. That's great. And they didn't win the game, but they at least earned a point. All those points are valuable. But this team, once they get Giordano back, once they get Wall back, then you would have a more accurate indicator of what this team really is. And do I think that the team, even completely 100% healthy, is going to win a Stanley Cup? No, they have too many holes. Can they do some damage in the playoffs? Sure, depending on matchups, depending on how well players are playing at a certain point. Yes. LJ in the chat is like, trade for Chris Tanev. Honestly, why? And he's saying trade Timothy Liljegren. That type of deal is so asinine
because you're paying a major price when you can get him for just money in the summer.
Exactly. And Liljegren is a defenseman that you want to hold on to. He is retainable for, I believe, another 2 years after his contract. Yeah, 2 years after this contract is up. You don't give away 23-year-old defensemen like Liljegren. He is not LJ. He is not useless. He's he's a right shot defenseman who can skate. Hey. So please
head down. Keep going, Mike.
Yeah. So I mean that's the thing in terms of asset management. You cannot give up young players. Yeah. Okay. LJ.
He's soft.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, if you're going to trade for players who are rentals, and more than likely, if they trade for a guy like Tanev, they'll be able to sign him. But do you want to trade assets that can help you next year for a guy that you can sign on July the 1st for nothing anyway?
I like Arish's deal. I'll take Tanev for future considerations. What would those considerations be? Yeah, and that's the thing. Here's a question, Mike. Do you think if the brass were sitting around having a scotch and things got real, that they would all verbalize to one another that they don't believe this is the year?
I don't think they would ever
in private,
even internally. I don't think they would ever admit that because they know hockey is not a it's a sport where logic. I mean, Florida snuck in the playoff by 1 point. They beat the President's Trophy winner. They got to the Stanley Cup Finals. There's no way of saying, well, I'm definitely
right. But was Florida not expected to be better than what they put together in the regular season?
Yes and no. I mean, they had holes and they had shortcomings in terms of, like Bobrovsky. A lot of people thought he was over the hill. A lot of people thought Spencer Knight was the number one goaltender. Then Spencer Knight was out for most of the year. I mean, they wouldn't have made the playoffs if not for Alex Lyon as their goalie. So, yeah, I mean, we
watched that series and Florida had control of that series from literally start to finish.
Once
I didn't hear a lot of the intelligentsia and those in the know go, what the hell is happening here? This can't be. This doesn't make sense. It's, man, that's a team full of character. Look at their leaders. Look at their goaltenders. We're expecting the Maple Leafs to play a certain way and have to follow the way the Panthers play. There wasn't a lot of, oh my God, this is a huge surprise. It was, this is what these guys were all along. It took until the last day of the regular season for us to get the opportunity to see them do what they do. They made it all the way to the finals. Yeah. I mean, is this the kind of team that, there's no way that this team gets into the playoffs in the last day of the regular season unless it really truly falls apart. But would this be the kind of team that would inspire something great once the second season begins? Like, here's a quick comment. Robert Hamilton, if this is your first time, thanks for being here. I don't recognize the name. If you've been here before, my apologies, but I really like your comment because it kind of summarizes the essence of our belief this season, 23-24. Is this team a contender is the question by Robert Hamilton. Is it even a contender? They're playing good lately, but the decor is below par, and they don't have a starting goalie. Keep the picks and prospects.
I agree. Now, are they a contender? Well, based on the fact that they're second in the Atlantic Division, as a loose definition, sure, I think they're a contender. Does that mean that they should go balls out like they did last year and trade first-round picks for rentals? No, because I don't think that they really. I mean, remember there was a level of desperation last year. They needed to get past the first round. And I think that's what Dubas did is he went out, he got McCabe, he got O'Reilly, he got Shen, and they did get past the first round. But a lot of people picked Toronto in that second round series because Florida was an unbelievable upset over a Boston team. But nobody knew if that was just a Cinderella story.
Right.
And, then we realized they were a bad matchup for Toronto, and then Samsonov got hurt, and we know how that went. So, but no, you keep the prospects, you keep your young players, you keep Nyes, you keep Cowan and Minton, you keep your first round pick next year. That's what you do. You do now if you can get players that can help you in the playoffs for mid-round picks, like if you can, get Ilya Lyubushkin back for a fifth-round pick or David Savard from Montreal for a fifth-round pick, then by all means. But I would not trade significant assets on the hope that this team can strike lightning in a bottle and advance and win the Stanley Cup.
We are not awaiting the reemergence of Ken Dryden and Joseph Woll, right? That's the thing. He hasn't really proven much. So for him to come back and for the organization, for the team, for the fan base to go, here's the weight, okay? I know it's really heavy on your shoulders, but go for it. You're our guy. You're back. You could put Carey Price prime between the pipes. Dominic Hasek, pick a goaltender that just took over the league, and this team is still not a favorite to win a Stanley Cup based on the defense. And, we're going to get a lot of comments after the live show accusing us of being, negative and against the team and to lighten up or wanting us to lighten up. I don't think that there's a negative tone to what we're talking about here. It's just reality of things. You're seeing and again, OGs, converts, guests, people who are subbing, unsubbing. If you see something different, if you believe that this team is something different and we're missing the boat completely, lay it out for us. I'll like the comment. I'll pin the comment. I'll let everybody know because maybe you're onto something that we are just not seeing. And that's okay. That's great. Come on. Give us a different perspective that we can sink our teeth into and get excited about. Last comment, Mike, and we'll go.
Well, I think we're talking with a hint of realism, and that I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I said, we'd like to see this team advance. We'd like to see this team have success. I just think that the holes that they need to fill, they don't have the cap space, they don't have the assets to be able to acquire the pieces before the trade deadline that will make it possible for them to be a favorite to beat some of these teams that are really good in the East. Now, tomorrow night, they're walking into a absolute hornet's nest. Now, that's not anything unusual because whenever they go to Buffalo, that's where winning streaks go to die. Because this team in Buffalo, and I know since I've watched almost every Buffalo-Toronto game in person in the Queen City since like 1980, and I can count on both hands probably the number of times that they've won. I think it's like 10 or 11 times. I don't know exactly, but it's not a lot. But you pair that together. Now, they did win last year. That was when Ryan O'Reilly scored the hat trick. And there will be 16,000 Leaf fans in the stands in Buffalo because every Sabre fan is probably dumping their tickets because of the way the Sabres played on Tuesday. But that's the reason they got absolutely destroyed by Columbus 9-4. And you don't think that team is not going to get up for their arch rival, the team that they hate, the team that they hate, the fact that their fans come and invade their building twice a year. I don't have a good feeling about that.
So if you're a betting man, you'd be putting money on the Sabres just because of the circumstance. Why can't the Leafs as a group, even with their flaws, that all-world offense, the maturity that has taken place, especially amongst the group of four and then Morgan Riley too, why can't they just turn it up another gear and go, fuck you guys, we're going to come into your building with all of our fans, take over the field, take over the culture, take over everything, and grab the 2 points because that's just who we are, flaws and all.
Why? Because I think that the game means more to the Sabre. I always say it this way.
Right.
Leafs games against the Sabres, especially in Buffalo, are the Sabres Stanley Cup. Right. Because they haven't made the playoffs in 12 years, so they get worked into a lather. I asked Henrik Telinder, who was when he was on a tryout contract with the Leafs a few years back, and I asked him, what is it about Toronto going to Buffalo that gets the Sabres all hyped up? He says, well, they're our rivals to the north. They're the big city. They've got millions of fans. And and a lot of our players are from Toronto, like Jeff Skinner and Owen Power, and all their family is watching the game, and they get worked into a lather, and that's just the reality. Now, can the Leafs raise their level? Sure, they did it last year, but will they? I'm not going to hold my breath.
Plastic bag. You're always negative. The trade deadline is ahead, so take it easy bashing them.
Not bashing.
I haven't heard any bashing today. And that's. Plastic bag takes it really personally, but Plastic, thanks for being here. So another comment, where is it? T-Sack. And I may put this up as a poll, youtube.com/Leafs Convo/community. And we'll leave it with this. If the Leafs kept the big three together for 15 years and at some point win 1 or 2 cups, does that make it worth it? So, I mean, the better part of almost 2 decades, 1 or 2 cups. And if that even happened, would it all be worth it, Mike?
If you can guarantee me the 1 or 2 cups, but you can't.
Yeah.
So no.
Right.
And honestly, you look at the teams that win cups, and they win cups with a balance of offense and defense and goaltending and good special teams. And this team, they have a great power play. They have really good offense. Their defense is average. Their goaltending right now is a big question mark. So until they balance things out, do I think they'll win a Stanley Cup? No.
But do you want them to win a Stanley Cup, Mike?
I'm an impartial observer.
Right. I'll speak on behalf of Mike Augello in conference. Of course he does. Do we believe they will? No, but that's the cynicism that is just underlying to everything Leafs fans do based on no success. Do we want them to win? Absolutely. Just how awesome would that be after a game 5, 6, 7 of the Stanley Cup? The Leafs somehow pulled it off. First one in, 50 plus years, whatever the tally is now. How would this show be? I mean, maybe nobody would be here because everybody would be partying and going crazy, but they'd all come back to the convo at some point. That would be the episode to end all episodes, and maybe we would just shut this whole project down after that because that's why we're here. So, there's the belief, and then there's the absolute yearning and want, and they're not the same thing, right? Because you have to be realistic. hey, surprises we'll certainly take. Mike, do your thing at hockeybuzz.com. Have fun at the game tomorrow. I think we should get together before Christmas, so that would be the Sunday, Christmas Eve. So we'll have a Sunday Spectacular OGs and Converts. We hope you can be here for the live show. And to those who are joining us for the recorded episode on YouTube, or if you're listening to us on the podcast platform of your choice, thank you so much for being here. Like the content, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to whichever platform you're listening to us on. We do really appreciate all of your support. So get yourselves ready for Christmas, get yourselves ready for the Sabres game. And then, of course, there's another one with the Blue Jackets coming up. And the Leafs owe the Blue Jackets. Can they give them that payback? We'll find out. For Mike, I'm Norm. We are out of here.